Have you ever wondered what is the hardest type of hole? Is it a par 3, a par 4, or a par 5? Well, the truth is it actually depends on your handicap level. So today I'm going to take you through how to play par 3s, 4s, and 5s so that you can play wicked smart golf and hopefully start shooting lower scores. ShotScope actually compiled a lot of this data for amateur golfers, which is going to help us. So we're going to go through this first. So let's take a look at scratch golfers. That's a big goal for a lot of you guys. Par 3s are actually the hardest holes in terms of score to par. So par 3s, a scratch golfer is at 3.16. At a par 4, it's 4.09, so just 0.9. But here's the crazy one. Par 5s, the average score for a scratch golfer is 4.76. So the other ones are slightly over par. This one is 0.24 under. So that's really impressive, and it kind of makes sense. Like, scratch golfers obviously are hitting it pretty long, so it's going to be easier to get closer to those par 5s and 2. So that's why I recommend so many players using speed training devices like Ripstick. This is one of the best investments you can make in your game because following the protocol 15 to 25 minutes 3 times a week or so, you're going to see massive improvements to your club head speed, which is going to have a big impact on your distance. So if you want to become a scratch golfer or you want to just get better wherever you're at, start hitting it longer. The average golfer hits at 215. The average scratch golfer hits at 259. So we need distance, and Ripstick can absolutely help. So 5 handicaps change a little bit. So here we actually go 3.36 on the par 3s, and then we go 4.43 on the par 4s. So they're actually playing par 4s worse than par 3s. That's actually kind of surprising to me. And then par 5s, they are playing the best at 5.17. So if you're in that 5 handicap range, you're obviously well above the average golfer. The average male with a carries a USGA handicap is a 14.2. Average female is a 27.5. So 5 handicap still really good. I think that's a great goal to get to. Things start to also change a lot more when you get to a 10 handicap. So a 10 handicap is playing a par 3 at 0.6 over par, so 3.6. They're playing the par 4s pretty much the same, 0.67. And then they're playing par 5s actually at 5.53. So one thing I think that a lot of people really misunderstand with par 5s is laying up. So I did a video on this on the channel, and I highly recommend you watch it because I think a lot of players think that, hey, I'm gonna lay up to a good distance. So instead of trying to get all the way to the green, you know, I might end up in a bunker and I'm not really good at bunkers. So I'm gonna lay back and hit it, you know, to 60 yards because that's a good lob wedge, or 75 yards because that's a good sand wedge. A lot of people get into that mentality, and it kind of makes sense, right? You're thinking, oh, I'm more comfortable with this range. But as noted in that video, the stats show that laying up is not the answer. You're just statistically not going to be better at 70 yards versus 50 yards, or at 80 yards versus 60 yards. I know those half wedges are a little uncomfortable at times, those kind of partial shots, or maybe you're hitting over a bunker and you have a little nerves on that. I understand that it can feel not as easy, or you might not have as much confidence, but when you really average it out over the year, you want to get as close to the green as possible. So I'm not saying you should never lay up. Of course, if there's a forced carry and you can't make it, or you got out of bounds on both sides, or maybe you're just playing terrible that day and you have no confidence, I'm never saying you should always go for the green, but if there's no trouble, get as close as possible. Statistically speaking, players across all different handicap levels are simply not better from a longer distance. So stop saying, hey, I'm gonna hit it to 100 instead of that awkward 60-yard shot. I want you to play wicked smart golf, and of course that comes from making the right decisions on the course. So let's go to the 15 handicaps. That's kind of the average golfer. They're playing the par 3s at 0.83 over par, playing the par 4s at 1.05 over par, and they're playing the par 5s at 0.91 over par. So I think that one thing I just can't stress enough is that if you really just want to play better fast, is make sure you're not playing too aggressively when you are going for the green. So an easy way I think to improve your performance on par 3s, par 4s, or par 5s is just to change your target. Stop firing at the flag. Too many golfers hit a good drive and then they tell themselves, I'm gonna go aggressive on this one. I'm gonna go all over the flag so that way I can make my birdie. I like where your head's at. Unfortunately, you're not playing the odds. And you have to remember that golf really more is a shotgun blast versus having a sniper rifle. It really can have some left, some right. I mean, that is why our dispersion pattern is huge, especially with those longer clubs in the bag. So simply put, aiming for the fat part of the green a lot more often will help. So if you do hit a push or a pull, you might still find the green or even the fringe, which is gonna be a lot easier than a greenside bunker. Statistically speaking, amateurs are terrible out of the sand. So you want to make sure that we're avoiding that as much as we can. Favor the middle of the green. I think it'll have a big impact on par 3s, par 4s, and par 5s. So as they note, the difficulty of the hole is dependent on handicap. For scratch golfers, par 3s are the hardest holes and par 5s are the easiest holes. However, this begins to flip around as handicap increases, with 25 handicaps scoring highest on par 5s. So if you are in that 20 to 25 handicap range, I recommend a few things. First off, make sure you start getting some lessons so you can figure out how to hit the middle of the club a lot more often. We got to minimize those mishits, use some of the training aids that I've mentioned in other videos, and make sure that you're just improving your fundamentals. Second though, you want to make sure you're playing the right equipment. Too many mid to high handicappers are playing long irons that they have no business doing. So by forgiving equipment, a lot of times that's gonna be an anti-slice driver, or make sure you adjust your driver if it is adjustable to get that draw setting and hopefully straighten it out. And then make sure that you are playing more forgiving irons and wedges. Plus, even a more forgiving mallet putter can make a big difference. So I really do think that equipment can play a big role. And then as you get to that mid to lower handicap level, then you can start to maybe add in some more hybrids, some more driving irons, or maybe some long irons if you are a solid ball striker. But again, the equipment is such a big piece of it, regardless of your skill level. Make sure to watch my What's in the Bag video here as well, because I kind of take you through 5 questions you want to ask yourself, so that way all your clubs are helping and not hurting your game. Ultimately, it comes down to the little things like adding more distance, improving your fundamentals, playing a little bit less aggressively, and then playing the right shot around the green. So no matter how good you get, missing greens is always going to be part of it. So just make sure that when you do miss, you're not trying these hero flop shots. You're playing the percentages. Maybe that means putting from the fringe or even the light rough, giving yourself some easy up and downs, and hopefully saving pars or bogeys so you can avoid those doubles or worse. And I think the final thing I want to just stress, whether you're playing a par 3, par 4, or 5, whether you're low, mid, or high handicap, have a good routine. If you don't have any pre-shot routine, it's going to be really hard to give your mind enough clarity for the shot. As a mental golf coach, I stress this with every player I work with. I stress this on every episode I have on my podcast, because having a good routine is one of the few things that all elite players have in common. When you have a good routine, you're going to get this guy on board, you're going to get your body prepared, and you're going to be able to walk into the shot with confidence. So if you don't have a routine, start creating one and then practice it on the range so it becomes automatic on the course. If you want even more videos to play better golf without changing your swing, make sure to watch these 2 next.